I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm going back to my parents' house. When I shouted this at the end of my patience, my mother-in-law who lived with me said, "Then take your 2 kids with you and divorce my son too." She grabbed my 3 and 5-year-old children's clothes roughly and pushed them toward me. The 2 children were so terrified that they did not even cry. They looked at my mother-in-law with frightened eyes while I held them in my arms. My mother-in-law, as if to say, "I'm so relieved," she was looking down at us. I had never thought that there was such a terrible mother-in-law in the world before I got married, not knowing that she would regret it later. She kicked us out. My name is Marie. I am a 36-year-old housewife. I met my husband Josh, who is 3 years younger than me, at a company social gathering. I had never dated anyone younger than me before, so Josh was not in my romantic interest. I guess I liked his nonchalant attitude. He was very aggressive in his appeal to me. After 1 year of dating, he proposed to me. When I said yes, Josh said,
"Actually, I want you to move in with me when we get married,"
he said.
"I'm worried about my mother and being alone at home."
Josh's father had already passed away, and Josh had no brothers or sisters. I was so moved by Josh's family-oriented attitude. I thought he would take good care of me, his wife. I agreed to live with Josh. Before our marriage, I went to Josh's parents' house to say hello. Josh's mother was a very quiet person, and I had no idea what she was thinking. I was relieved that she did not seem to be a rude person. However, after the wedding and the registration of the marriage, and when we started to live together, my mother-in-law's prejudice against her son gradually became clear. "That's right. The wife is 29 years old. She was in a hurry to get married, wasn't she?" Josh was fooled, too, because he told me so. He said he didn't mean it. My mother-in-law didn't even know I was listening. She was calling a friend or a relative. I wanted to go out and deny it, but it seemed to be getting more and more cruel, so I held my anger and kept quiet. My parents have always been very strict. If you're going to live with them, you must serve your husband and mother-in-law well. Young people these days get divorced so easily. I will not tolerate that kind of thing. My mother also told me, "Don't come home often and take advantage of us." My mother told me and watched me go away. My mother said that from her mother-in-law's point of view, I thought it might be the same for my mother-in-law, so I thought that might really be true. If you endure it, someday you'll laugh about it. My mother said it as if it was from a song lyric. Then I was sent off, so I thought that if I got married, I would not think of leaving easily, and I decided to protect my family. To do so, I thought it was important to be financially stable. I continued to work after marriage. But my mother-in-law, "Stop it! You're making it look like my Josh doesn't make enough money." And she would say to me every time I came home from work, even when I was tired, that, "You decided on your own, okay? So I want you to do your job as a housewife too." She says to prepare dinner and clean up afterwards. "You vacuum the house every day when you're a housewife. You should also clean the bathroom and toilet every day." I was made to work late into the night cleaning the house. Even when I looked exhausted and worn out, even Josh would told me,
"You're going to quit after the baby is born anyway. Why don't you just quit now?"
That's what he said. I want to work even after I have a baby. More than that, I told him that I wanted him to do something about my mother-in-law.
"Well, my mother has always been like that, so there's no way she would listen to me even if I told her."
He said this as if it was someone else's problem. At first, I thought that my mother-in-law was a quiet person because she did not talk. I was so wrong. She was the type of person who reveals her true nature as soon as you become related. Even so, I stubbornly continued to work. After a year, my mother-in-law told me, "It's about time you had a baby," she said. "Isn't it because you are working that you can't have a child yet? Infertility rate increases when you reach 30 years old. I already had Josh when I was 25. She started to sarcastically say these things, when I ignored her, as I should have. He didn't have to marry someone this old. He could have had a younger one. She said that and walked away, getting on my nerves. Not long after that, I became pregnant. I was relieved to know that I would no longer have to deal with her sarcasm anymore. See, I told you so. You're too late to get pregnant at 30. It's your own fault. You should take care of the housework. She never took over the housework for me. I had no choice but to give up my job and stay home. But my mother-in-law was still not pleased. Oh, you have been working until now, when after all you're going to quit anyway. If that was the case, why didn't you quit early? And she would say things to despise me. In the end, I realized that no matter what I did, she wouldn't like it. I tried to stay out of her sight as much as possible. I had to make an effort not to see her in the house. To be honest, I wanted to have a home birth. But when I mentioned it to my mother-in-law, she said, "It's going home to your parents after all, isn't it? You still think of yourself as a child, don't you? Your parents are pathetic." She even insulted my parents. I was so frustrated and disappointed that I decided to give birth at home. However, when I talked to Josh and expressed my concern that I didn't know if I would be able to do the housework,
"You're a stay-at-home mom. You can do it." "Oh, well, my mom will take care of it. Just don't put that burden on me."
He directly told me so. At the time, Josh was in a management position. He seemed to be very busy, even from the side. I had been in that management position myself. I could understand how Josh felt. However, he had originally asked me to move in with him, and with that he did not follow up with any support for me. He left my mother-in-law, who was unattentive to me. I was gradually losing heart. However, at this stage, I still thought that I was still a happy person, because my life after the birth of my child was hellish. I gave birth to a baby boy, and he was very, very cute. But my mother-in-law didn't even hold him in her arms, and if he cried at night, she would say, "He's too noisy. Put him to bed soon." She would yell at me like that. I was so upset because I was raising a child for the first time. I was going out of my mind because of her hysterical yelling. When I was upset, the baby was anxious too. The crying did not stop, and the vicious cycle continued day after day. I never expected that my mother-in-law, who had experienced child rearing, wouldn't be such a good friend. I began to feel even more disgusted with my mother-in-law. Josh wouldn't take over childcare for me, and when the baby cried in the middle of the night, rather, he did the same thing as my mother-in-law.
Hey, why don't you take him somewhere else? I have to work early in the morning,"
he would say in a disgusted voice. I had no choice but to take the baby outside for a walk and return home some nights. So I was sleep deprived all the time, and I wondered when I would ever get a proper sleep. Day after day I was exhausted, doing housework and taking care of my child. My mother-in-law did not help me. When the baby cried during the daytime, she would say, "Gosh, it's too noisy, so I'm going out." So she started to go out. The superintendent of the condominium once said, "I heard that your mother-in-law is addicted to casino these days. There are really some people who get addicted to casino when they get old." I have been told that. I wondered if the noise of casino was not louder than the sound of a baby's crying. I had a very mixed feeling about it. However, I was relieved that my mother-in-law was gone from the house. I didn't say anything in particular because I was kinda relieved. However, my mother-in-law became too much into it and started to go out from morning till night. "Marie, can you give me some allowance? I have a lot of things to do this month." She started asking me for some money. My mother-in-law is supposedly receiving a survivor's pension. She never paid any living expenses to our house and kept all her money on her own. I thought she was obviously spending it in the casino. And because I didn't want my mother-in-law to stay at home, so I started to give her money. And thanks to this, our family budget, which I had managed to make ends meet, went crazy every month. But then I thought it was better than putting myself under stress, so I closed my eyes to the situation. Then Josh came to me.
"Your bank book balance is going down. What are you spending it on?"
I told him about my mother-in-law. When I told him about her, Josh did not blame his mother.
"What are you thinking? You have to stop that kind of thing."
He scolded me instead. "She's your mother. I was hoping you'd tell her yourself."
I didn't think you were such an unreliable woman. I was a fool to trust you with the family finances.
He spat the blame on me.
Anyway, don't ever give my mother any more money.
He gave me the order not to give her any more money. Then, when my mother-in-law asked me for pocket money as usual, Josh told me not to give you any more money. When I rejected her, my mother-in-law looked at me with disbelief. It's a wife's job to make it work, right? You're supposed to take good care of your old ones. You're so useless. She was furious and went out of the house again. After that, I was asked for money several times, but when I mentioned Josh's name, she reluctantly gave up. I hate cheapskate wives. Who do you even think you are? She told me in a sarcastic tone and left. After a while, the urging stopped, but she continued to play in the casino. I don't know how my mother-in-law was managing her money. At that time, I was pregnant with my second child. I was so busy raising my child with my pregnant body that I didn't see what was going on around me. That was all I could think about. It was the same after I gave birth to my second child. My mother-in-law was still bullying me, and it was getting worse and worse. I was so preoccupied with making the baby grow up that I could not afford to worry about it. Furthermore, when my younger daughter turned 2 years old, I was able to get a new job, which I had longed for. I spent less and less time at home. I spent less and less time with my mother-in-law. A year passed by before I realized it. Josh started coming home later and later. I wondered if it was my imagination, but I felt that he was absent-minded more and more often. My younger son, now 3 years old, began to take to his father. Whenever he tried to go out alone on his days off, I want to go with you. No amount of coaxing by me would stop him. I asked Josh if he could take his son with him. I pleaded.
No, it's not a place for children.
And then, with an unclear attitude, he goes off, on his own, to escape. When my daughter, who was sad, persistently made a fuss, my mother-in-law, who was at home, said to her, Shut up! Make her be quiet! She scolded them hysterically. My 2 children were frightened by my mother-in-law and did not take to her at all. After many times of this, I finally ran out of patience. After Josh had left, I told my mother-in-law, who was scolding my daughter. I finally yelled at her, Shut up! Shut up! You're the one being noisy! I finally yelled at her. And more likely, it's your son's fault. You tell someone else's kid to listen, but you never mind your own son. I kept yelling like a madman. My mother-in-law, who had never been resisted by me before, looked at me dumbfounded. And then I finally said it. I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm going back to my parents' house. I said it out loud. Then my mother-in-law said, Then take those 2 annoying kids with you and divorce my son. She roughly grabbed the clothes of my 3- and 5-year-old children and shoved them towards me. She then produced the divorce papers with Josh's name on them, which I don't know where she got them from. Take that with you. And she handed it to me. I felt uncomfortable with her readiness, but I was so mad that I thought it was a good idea. I wrote down my name and packed our bags to go to my parents' house. I then went to the city hall and filled the divorce papers. Then I went to my parents' house, and my mother, who had heard so much, she accepted me without a word. When I reported it to my father with dread, he said,
I see.
Just that.
Not, don't be naive, go back home.
I was relieved that he did not criticize me. 2 weeks later, I was at the door of my office after work. I found 37 calls to my phone. The caller was my ex-mother-in-law. She had been calling almost every 10 minutes since early afternoon. As I was going through the incoming call history, I found another call from my ex-mother-in-law. I tapped the incoming call icon inadvertently. Then my ex-mother-in-law's loud voice echoed around me, even though I didn't put the phone on speaker. Marie, why won't you answer the phone? I looked at the other employees. I hurriedly put my phone to my ear and said, I think you've got the wrong person, I said, and left the place. Several people glanced at me and looked at me curiously. How could I be mistaking you for someone else? I've been calling you all day long, but why don't you answer? As usual, my ex-mother-in-law was so self-centered that I was sick of talking to her. Isn't it natural because I'm at work? I mean, we are strangers now, aren't we? When I said that and tried to hang up, to my surprise, my ex-mother-in-law was standing right in front of me holding a smartphone. It seemed that she was waiting for me. My ex-mother-in-law trembled and hung up the phone.
You! How dare you! You think you can do this?
She took out an envelope with a content certified stamp and showed it to me. I popped my head in. What are you talking about? My ex-mother-in-law replied.
Don't play dumb with me. It's your father, she screamed.
I looked at the contents of the envelope that she handed me. It was a picture of Josh in a hotel room with a woman, and a picture of my ex-mother-in-law in a casino, and a detailed report of each of their activities. The casino clerk saying,
"Oh, that old woman who's here every day. I remember her because she's here from morning till night. She always gets mad when she loses."
She's always losing money and getting mad, and there was also a letter testifying. And then, unexpectedly, there was a picture of my ex-mother-in-law receiving something that looked like money from Josh's cheating partner. It seemed that my father, who was the head of the credit agency, had been conducting his own investigation from the time when he became suspicious. At the bottom of that, in my father's own handwriting,
"I will never forget the fact that you people hurt my daughter, so be prepared."
That was written. My father was angry. I was so moved to know that. In fact, I had been avoiding my father ever since I returned home. I was ashamed that I had come back to my father's house even though he had told me not to come back, so my father did not take the opportunity to talk to me. He must have sent the material to Josh and my ex-mother-in-law. I once again found the courage to fight, and when I glared at my ex-mother-in-law, who was very mad, I said, "What on earth did you receive from your cheating son's partner?" I asked her. My ex-mother-in-law looked away.
That's not important. More than that, tell your father. Tell him to destroy this document,
she shouted in an obviously suspicious manner. My ex-mother-in-law, who has been playing in the casino from morning till night and keeps losing money. She must have no income other than the survivor's pension. Well, it seems that your son's cheating partner's name and address are all in here. All I have to do is ask her myself. As I said this while looking at the documents, my ex-mother-in-law started shaking and trembling.
"Oh, please, don't do that. You've already separated, so it's none of your business. Please, please, please!"
She bowed her head vigorously. I could feel the stares all around me. "Anyway, I'll look into it some more. If you keep following me, I'll call security." I implored her to leave. My ex-mother-in-law bit her lip and left quietly. I hurried back to my parents' house and jumped on my father's back, who was reading the newspaper in the living room. "Dad, I'm sorry. And thank you." Then I suddenly lost my mind and started to cry like a child. My dad said,
"Oh."
Then he patted me on the back as I sobbed.
"I will take care of them. You don't have to do anything."
He patted me gently on the head.
"I'm sorry you had to endure so much."
And I just nodded quietly. I couldn't stop crying, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. I think I must have been tired after a long, long time. The kids seemed to be watched by my mother. When I woke up, it was morning and I was on the couch with a blanket over me. Later, Josh's affair partner told me that she wanted to marry Josh. She gave the money to my casino-crazed ex-mother-in-law to bully me. She had asked her to get rid of his son's wife and children. If the affair was found out, she would only be charged alimony and might not be able to get married. My ex-mother-in-law was more grateful of a daughter-in-law who's giving her allowance. She may have also thought that she would not have to take care of her grandchildren. After that, Josh and his cheating partner remarried. The ex-mother-in-law was not what she thought she would be, and her new daughter-in-law started to bully her.
"There is no food for a useless person."
And the wife's voice echoed through the neighborhood every night. The former mother-in-law had no place to stay at home. Eventually, she was kicked out. After that, the new wife got tired of Josh's cheap salary and moved all her savings to herself. She sold the family home and ran away and disappeared. Josh was lonely and looked for his mother. She was housed in a facility for elderly people with no relatives, and she had a hard time there. And as soon as she met Josh, she was like, "Oh my God!" She ran away screaming like that.
I don't want to go home! I don't want to go home! The devil is here!
She was clinging to a pillar, and he had a very hard time pulling her off. It was horrible to imagine how much his new wife had tormented her. I also felt that the resentment she must have felt toward his son, who had left her alone. She had lived her life according to my own desires, and having to pay the price of being bullied and tormented. I am so glad that I did not stay with Josh, who ignored my family. In the end, Josh rented a shabby apartment with what little money he had and started living alone. After work, he went to his night job and worked on weekends as well. He's managing to make ends meet while paying his alimony and child support. I can only say that he deserves what he gets. As for me, I am able to work hard at my company thanks to the cooperation of my parents in raising my children. Recently, I have been entrusted with important work. My children are also with my parents. They are very attached to them, especially my grandfather's lap, which was very popular, and we were always fighting over it. My father and mother were very strict with me, but when it came to their grandchildren, they seemed to have no pain in their eyes and loved them like crazy, unlike with me back then. But when I see my parents looking so happy, I am glad I became a mother. I feel happy to be a mother and to have been able to show filial piety to my parents. I forget the hellish day and will live happily.